In my hobby career, I have constructed many a wargaming board.
Boards such as the wind-swept yellow deserts of the diesel-punk wastelands, the blood-soaked rivets and girders of the grim, dark meat factory, the dank psychedelic caverns of the goblins, and the noble and dignified bridge of an imperial starship.
All these boards create a level of immersion and presentation that I love to game on, but they all lack one thing: modularity. As much as I love these boards, it's reminding me a little bit of video games. When the game comes over to play, I hop into my character selector tools, picking out what faction I want, and then I hop into the map selection screen, which is my basement floor where I keep all these boards, and I pick a board and then press play. And there's nothing wrong with that, but today I'm feeling a little spicy. I want to try something new. War games are all about choice and customizability, so for April's board, I want to try making a board that is 100% modular. And the terrain I'm going to be doing this on is this humongous pile of pointy resin, printed in beautiful Soraya Tech resin, linked in the description below. This pile is going to become the Twisted Train Station. We here at EonsOfBattle have been playing a lot of a lovely game called Malifaux, a character-based skirmish game, and we could really use a board to play on. And to get this all painted up, I want to show you guys a recent painting trick that I learned, or rather was taught, that has completely changed my life. Or at least my painting life. Hopefully it'll allow me to get this all painted up really quickly. Time to get to work.
Well, really, first it's time to assemble. And what is that box doing here? It's not allowed in other games, April.
All right. Step one of any good terrain project is getting organized. I gotta figure out what parts I actually have to work with.
This mess of terrain was designed by the EonsOfBattle team for our April terrain pack. Nick, Liqerise, Radium Minis, and I came up with all these pieces, and now it's time to put them all together. Some of these pieces have some assembly required, like the newsstand with its opening and closing doors, walls, and roof. And the ultra-retro car also needs some configuring. In the weird world, the horse-drawn carriage has just been upgraded to run on magic-infused gasoline, to ferry the citizens, mutants, and gangs to and fro.
Now the only thing left to assemble are these gardens, and these might be my favorite pieces out of this whole terrain pack. Now if you've ever been to like Disney World or Six Flags or any sort of theme park, you'll always see beautifully manicured gardens with a big sign that says keep off. But in the dark and twisted world of Malifaux, there is no sign that says keep off. If you look closely, it appears to be the silhouette of a nice manicured garden, but in actuality, it is a death trap. And if you look closely, you'll see mechanical machinations made to look a bit like plants, but actually, they are flying, poking blades of death and doom, representing hazardous terrain. Characters are free to move over them to get into a better position for the gameplay, but they are almost certain to take damage. The gardens are all empty, and I have to add some pokey hostas, punching petunias, dagger daffodils, a grinder, nail shrub, stabby clovers, buzzsaw ferns, and bear traps. There are many small plants, but some of my favorite are these larger ones, like this deadly chainsaw bush, this buzzsaw tree, and my personal favorite, death hedge. Time to assemble. In place of the traditional mulch, our flower beds are beds of cogs and gears. Even the ground is dangerous, and with the addition of the mechanical plants glued down, it makes these gardens even more treacherous. Topiary is the horticultural art of shaping plants into a pleasing and presentable shape. And in the other world, the darker world, it has been taken a step further, creating deadly facsimiles of this endearing art form. Assembly was a lot of fun, but now it is time to prime about 100 pieces of terrain, so this is gonna take a bit. Every single piece is now primed and it is time to begin painting. And the way I'm going to be painting this stuff up is predominantly with dry brushing. Now recently I got back from Adepticon and I got to have a one-on-one painting lesson from the one and only Byron over at Artist Opus, famous as the dry brushing master, and he definitely taught me a thing or two. I always figured I knew how to dry brush because I read all about it in a White Dwarf 10 years ago, but he definitely showed me some tricks. I actually went home that night and I painted up some miniatures from a game called Fallout Wasteland Warfare, and yeah, it is by far the best dry brushing I have ever done in my life, and I think that'll be the perfect way to achieve some really saucy painting on these pieces. These fences have some wonderful shapes created by our artist Liqerise and some great textures from our sculptor Radium Minis, and should be the perfect thing to try this out on. But first, a little base coating.
I could have used my dry brushes to apply this dark red base coat to the bricks, but I have like 50 of these to do, and the airbrush will save me a little bit of time on this step. But you can definitely use a dry brush to base coat your minis. All those tiny little hairs can get paint right into all the nooks and crannies, and it was a lot faster than a standard paintbrush. Now the big thing I learned about dry brushing is, it's a lie. The brush should not be dry, but slightly damp. When paint is dry, it doesn't want to let go of the paintbrush and stick to the model. You have to get just a little bit of moisture on your brush so the paint will come off the bristles nicely. A little piece of foam is great for this. I stuck some in a bottle cap, then I put a single drop of water in there, and now I can use this to get my brush exactly the right amount of moist. For my palette, I like to use the top of my wet palette as a dry palette. It has a rough texture and the raised letters are the perfect for working the paint into the bristles. I took some red and black paint, mixed them together on the brush, then wiped it across the bricks in only one direction. Whenever I saw the paint start to get dusty, I knew it was time to dip my brush into the wet foam to get more moisture. Then I added some yellow to my red and dry brushed again. It helps to work in layers, not make big jumps in color. Then I made it gray and did the same wipes on the wrought iron. After that I took the same colors and applied them to the concrete, but in a stippling pattern to add texture. Then a dry brushing of pure white, which I did to everything, really to make the most prominent details pop. I like how cold the stone looks, but I also want just a little bit of life, so I stippled on some green and lime green here and there to represent some moss growing on the surfaces of these fences, and I airbrushed on some orange over the iron to make it into gold.
I like how these fences are coming along, but I think they're lacking a little something. And it might seem silly to really analyze a fence, but I have two ideas I think might really spice them up.
I put a little black ink in my airbrush and squirted on some shadows. This is a little theatrical, but it adds a lot to make the model read better. Then I took some school glue and put this over top of my green moss, which I then poured on some micrograss flock to, so that my moss had some dimension to it.
There we go, just a little extra something to kick it up a notch. I'll probably throw a little matte varnish on there once it's dry to keep it stuck on. But now, I want to work on the violent gardens. Oh, they look like a piece of art. I mean, they sort of are art. Gardening. Well, mechanical gardening. But I can't wait to get some metal on these.
I am using 3 brushes for this. A nice long bristled brush to get in all the nooks and crannies of the gears, and some big old dry brushes to hit just the tops of the plants. I put some dark gunmetal and copper onto my palette and smashed my brush into the gears. It won't get everywhere, which is perfect. The spots it misses will be my darkest shadows. Then it was time for some silver. The small, soft dry brushing bristles don't reach too far into the plants, which is perfect. It brightens up just the tops and gets the mechanical weapons a nice shine. They're so pretty and inviting, don't you just want to touch them? I put a super bright silver on the very tippy tops of everything. This was especially striking on all the large plants, like the bushes, the trees, both pine and willow, and of course, Death Hedge. Then it was time for the borders. I started off with a foundation of brown, stippling it on to add even more texture than was already there. Then more stippling of a lighter brown, a dry brushing of tan paint, and lastly, a light dry brushing of white. They look so perfect. The story of these plants is a bit of literal social engineering. Keep off the plants or the engineering will get you. And to demonstrate that or else, I took some blood paint and sprayed it here and there on the plants. Evidence of those who were not smart enough to keep off. On the building, I did all the same steps I did on the fences, but now it's time to put on a nice copper roof. I sponged on some copper paint covering 90% of the model. The last 10% of black showing will be my contrast. And now it's time for some verdigris. I took a jade paint and stippled and dry brushed randomly over the model to show the patina that has grown over the years. Now the building is perfect, but it has some more details. I think I know a painting process that would be perfect for these. A little slap chop. I slapped and chopped some gray and white paint over these, and then some speed paint over top to add color. I glued them down, and then it was finished.
What a lovely little shop. The dry brushing worked perfectly, and the slap chopping of the paper stand gives me an idea of how to tackle some of these other pieces.
On the luggage and poster stands, I wanted to bring out all the details as simply as I could, so I applied some gray dry brushing and then some white dry brushing. They both are getting the same base, but I have different plans on how to finish them. On the luggage, I put lots of different colors of speed paint onto my palette and started picking out all the little pieces that make up these piles. It was quick and they looked so good. The pooling that the speed paint did gave some nice texture and variety, but on the poster stands, I did something a little different. On these, I want a nice even cold stone, so I airbrushed on some blue-gray speed paints. Then I picked out the decorative tulips with some gold paint.
The dry brushing is doing a really good job of bringing out all of the little details in the pieces. And nothing builds experience faster than painting dozens and dozens and dozens of parts. But now I think my skills are good enough to tackle the car.
Now, one thing about dry brushing is it helps to work in sub-assemblies, so I haven't glued the whole car together yet. I want to slap chop this too, so I did the same gray and white dry brushing over everything, which made a lovely little black and white car, which looks straight out of an old photo. I put some black speed paint over the cabin of the car, some brown over the wooden flooring, some bright red over the lavish upholstery, and red over the wheels and bonnet. I picked out all the little gold details around the body, and this funny little car is ready to chauffeur some passengers to the other side.
Oh, it's so cute! There's even room in the cabin to put a model. Oh, this thing is gonna be great. There's only one piece remaining, and it is the portal. This thing is enormous. Certainly the biggest piece of terrain we have ever made. Gonna have to adjust the camera to get this one in frame. Damn, it's a chunky boy.
There is only one color in the universe that is special enough to represent the glowing energy of the portal, and that is magenta. I airbrushed this over the glowy fiery bits, not worrying too much if it got on the stone. I airbrushed some purple from underneath to give some dimension to the tendrils of energy, and then a little white on top. Then it was time for some dry brushing. I sponged and wiped on some white paint to add texture to the energy, and then airbrushed on some fluorescent yellow paint. Now the portal looks super saturated and colorful. I want the bricks to be the exact opposite. I dry brushed those with a layer of gray, very light gray, and then white. This desaturated stone will stand out nicely next to the zany portal.
That is the last piece painted, but it is not the last step. Our artist Liqerise came up with some in-universe posters to decorate this world with.
These will be available to download with the terrain ready to print. I carefully cut them out and was left with dozens and dozens of fun posters. My favorite are these wanted posters. Leave a comment if you recognize who these criminals are. I used some Elmer's glue to stick these down, covering the poster stands, and I found lots of other places to stick these as well. Now the only thing left to see is what it looks like all together. Usually building a board starts with a finished idea of what the battlefield will look like. But it is also exciting to just build the parts. It's opportunity, it's a mystery. It's the excitement of how cool will the finished product look, but not knowing what it'll look like just yet. It's the same as painting an army. While you work, you're energized, thinking of all the fun and cool moments that'll be had with these pieces, and that is exactly how I felt painting these parts of the board. The twisted train station is complete in all its evil, desaturated, pointy, dangerous glory. Oh, it looks like a train station. It looks nice, and it looks like a nice place to be, but man, when you take a close look, everything is dangerous and a little bit violent. Oh, it's gonna be so much fun to play on this, and everything is completely modular. We will never play on this terrain the same way twice. Which does mean that I can't fall back on my classic excuse of the terrain made me lose, because I will have had a hand in setting up the terrain for each and every single battle. But man, this looks like fun. Tons and tons of treacherous terrain to climb over, but you're probably gonna take a little bit of damage, and even these train tracks. I'm guessing that the trains fly into that portal headed to Earth really, really fast, so maybe we'll have to create a special rule where on the roll of a 6, if you're ever on the train tracks and you roll a 6, you're just dead. You're just completely flat out dead because a train has smashed you into the other side. And I can't wait to just sit here for the rest of the day and rearrange it and organize it into all sorts of different play styles. Maybe make it something where you completely have no choice but to go over the dangerous terrain. Maybe one of the dangerous terrain is pulled out to the sides and you're kind of forced into a small arena. There is nothing but options. This pack is going to be available for the month of April on our Patreon, all hosted by Comics, Games, and Things. And man, is it a cool, cool set. A weird set, if you will, because Malifaux. Thanks for watching.